Hello, I'm David and welcome to my channel. I wanted to make a quick video about zodiacs in general because it feels like, at least to me, that I still run into a few people so often where they seem to be, I guess, shocked that I'm so into zodiac signs, tarot, astrology, and I wanted to, I guess, make a quick video to at least share my experience, at least, or my opinion as to why I think zodiac is for some, at least for me, and also just help to give examples of when I use or how I utilize tarot or from the information I learned through, I guess, learning from zodiac signs. I'm going to start by saying or acknowledging that I understand that for some, tarot or zodiac signs in general is nonsense. I'm a strong believer that you can't really force someone to adopt beliefs or behaviors or interests that I guess one might have of their own. Like I think we all can pick and choose like what we decide to believe in, but at least I wanted to create a quick video where I can explain why I utilize it or how I utilize it. So maybe it can help answer some of the questions that say people who are not really into it or why me sharing my opinion. You can help understand it a little bit more if that's the case. But again, like I mentioned before, I understand fully that this is not for everyone, and some people just choose to ignore it or just view it as nonsense altogether, which is totally, excuse me, totally understandable because we all have our different beliefs and faiths and all that stuff. So I think it's at the end of the day, it's all about respect. So I'm going to start off by just going through the zodiac signs and sharing a little bit of thoughts that come to my mind when I think of these different zodiac signs. And I know there's like different other factors that play into like how someone shows up in life, or as like they could inherit some traits from their parents or some other factors such as like the environment they was raised in or some other passed along knowledge that they just so happen to adopt. So I just want to preemptively just make a broad disclaimer that I understand that not all of this is going to apply to everyone. And overall, some people might not find any interest of this or still think at the end of the day that this is all BS, which is totally understandable as well. I just want to share my opinions to hopefully help someone who don't really understand why some people are into zodiac or this type of, I guess, niche interest. So with that being said, I'm just going to start from the top. The first sign is Aries, which, if you don't know, Aries runs from the month starting March 21st to April 19th. And I will admit, I don't know that much about Aries, at least for myself. Well, I know Aries is a fire sign, and I feel because of that passion, that impulse nature of them, we don't typically vibe that well. Where some, like, I know it's other factors that goes into the full makeup of someone because I have had decent conversation with Aries, and I know there are some Aries out there where we seem to have gotten along fine. However, I'm just thinking from just the Aries alone, for me, that tends to be a slight personality disconnect. And just to give an example of how I utilize this in my own personal life, say if I'm aware that I'm working with an Aries or I'm have some plans that will bring me in contact with an Aries, in my mind, I would just I guess, mentally prepared that this person might be a little more impulsive, might be a little more short tempered. So for myself, I guess, prematurely just brace myself in a sense. Not to say that Aries are bad. I don't think any zodiac sign is bad at all. I just think, just overall, this is like some of the mental thoughts that goes to my brain. And yes, I am a Capricorn, so when I get to that sign, I will go over some of the, I guess, shortcomings. In general, with Aries, it's not challenging, but I just mentally prepared that this is gonna be a more extroverted person, which is cool. But in my honest opinion, I'm already, I guess, mentally preparing that, okay, I might not be able to spend like a extended period of times with this person if they have not gone through the process of self-controlling their self, or just becoming more aware of like how they come off to other individuals, which I think is a very, very big factor of all the signs, right? Because we all have the opportunity to, like, I guess, make our own necessary or any type of like better habits that we want to adopt. So that's my initial thoughts on Aries. The next sign is Taurus, which Taurus runs from the starting April 20th to May 20th. And Taurus, for me, they're, I how can I say this? The Taurus that I have met in my life, it's been like 50-50, to be honest. I know that we're both earth signs, so we have like I guess, a basic similarities, a lot of similarities, but there are some differences that I've noticed when I come in contact with Aries. I'm not sure if it's just the Aries that I come in contact with, but to me, they just seem a little bit off. Not to say it's a bad off, but it seemed like it's not necessarily um my cup of tea, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't have any grudges against Taurus, but I just think that sometimes there's a mismatch, and I think it might just, unfortunately, it might just be the Taurus that I've interacted with. I do know that there are known to be like hard workers or very stubborn individuals, which I think that's probably part of um, my own experience with them. However, I don't know. Maybe I just need to meet a little more Taurus people to give a more well-rounded, I guess, feedback. But normally, like, I don't. I guess meeting the Taurus, I don't have any more thoughts beyond that. Like, it's a Taurus. They probably work hard, or they probably very like stubborn, but nothing that's like, I guess, overwhelming for me. Like, far as compared to like a fire sign, like the Aries, I kind of in my mind think like this gonna be like high energy, far as like Aries, but in Taurus, I feel like it's more temper headed, and sometimes it just comes, like, the friction that shows up when there's like a debate that we have to have, and then working with someone that's stubborn, stubborn could make it a little bit challenging at times. So that's my thought when it comes to Taurus. The next sign is Gemini, which runs from the time May 21st to June 20th. And for me, Geminis are interesting, to say the least. I don't think Geminis have 100% false rap, because I think most people view Geminis as two-sided, two-faced. All the the double-sided opinion has its reason, right? I mean, let's all be honest here. Geminis, they can be fun, but at the same time, they can be chaotic or somewhat messy. I don't know. It's very difficult to also have an honest conversation with a Gemini at time because, at least in my opinion, now I know this doesn't speak for all Geminis, but it's I feel like at most of the messiness or the, I guess, fighting that I've seen at the root where it was always a Gemini for some weird reason, and I think it's just because they just have a bunch of different facets within themselves. I'm just gonna call it that. But overall, like when they're good, they're good people to be around. But you just, I guess, you don't know what type of, I guess, what side of the Gemini that you might be dealing with at the current time. And it also seemed like they have the capability to like jump into the other side. Like Gemini's themselves, at least in my experience, I hope that it's not consistent or close everyone's experience, but they're the personality type for me at least where when they're happy or they're good, they're good. But it takes like a millisecond for them to switch from being happy to just being like in this negative mindset, and it just seems so a little bit bipolar. I don't want to say that because I'm a medical professional, but it seems like they have the capability to just switch so quickly and then go back to being happy. So that's at least my opinion of them. And with that, I guess when I navigate those type of people, I always have to play like this awkward like type of like dance where like we can be good when you're good, but when you're bad, I don't want to communicate with you because it just drives down or it brings down the whole energy in the atmosphere. So at least that's my opinion with Gemini's. Next I'm going to Cancer. When I think of Cancers, which runs from June 21st to July 22nd. When I think of Cancers, I recognize that they are, I guess, my opposite sign. So I do think they are, I guess, we think of like the yin and yang. I think what they're the opposite of whatever when I'm supposed to be. But Cancers themselves, I think, at least in my experience, you have to. I want to. Okay, and I'm not trying to offend any Cancers. I do know Cancers in general have a big heart. They generally care about people on the surface, or they at least tell people or act like they care about people. But I feel like Cancers themselves, they also are very capable of saying a lot of falsehoods, which, I mean, maybe that's just my opinion, or at least my experience, where a Cancer, a, at least for me, they come off nice, they come off caring, but similar to Gemini, and maybe this is why they're like right beside each other. I think they are also capable of a quick switch. But again, I'm saying this knowing that there could be just my experience of Cancers. I'm pretty sure there are some um, very honest and transparent Cancers out there, or maybe it's just they, and could just be the ultimate thing where they really care about their close circle, and then everyone that's not part of that circle, they just view as like, I guess, whatever. But they will play the role as in they care about you, like in like when you're speaking with them. But I don't really think you can take what they say at face value. But they are generally are warming people. But it's like when you, I guess you, I wouldn't put it behind them their ability to tell lies, pretty much. And that's probably I'm not trying to offend anyone, but at least that's my experience. I'm just gonna go on to the next one. Oh boy, I have Leo next, which Leo themselves, July 23rd to August 22nd. Now, when I think of Leo, I think of there's another fire sign which makes me think impulsive. And I will admit, when I was in, I guess, my early 20s, there were a few Leos that I hung out with, and I'll admit it was fun because they are very outgoing, very, um, very talkative, entertaining. Most of them, at least the ones that I've been around, they seem less judgmental. But I think that less judgmental depends on if you're actually like dating the Leo or whether or not you just friends. Because Leos are also bold, and I've seen some Leos have a complete lack of respect. Uh, Matter of fact, I'm gonna like a quick story without disclosing any names. I remember that back during that time where um, I was I had my group of friends that I hung out with on a regular basis, and I remember there was a Leo that my best friend at the time, or a close friend of mine at the time, was dating, and we was like all like hanging out. Just was at my buddy's house at the time, and I remember the Leo that they were dating ended up like cheating on my friend at the time in his own house. Well, excuse me, while I was there, and I just thought that was the ultimate disrespect. And I remember like while they was like hashing it out, the Leo was 100% trying to blame my friend for I guess his action, which was kind of odd. Plus, I have some more stories about Leos that I don't want to share right now, but is they're very interesting, and I think they 100% like demand or expect the attention, and anyone who's not giving them attention, they kind of wash off. Like they're less interested in people who's not paying them attention. Which, I mean, for me that's great, right? Like if someone who I know demands attention, which I mean as the person I am, I typically don't give attentions that's not necessary. So me and Leos don't really jive, but in the past they are fun. Like the Leos are fun if say you want to go out and you just want to I guess get lost in the night. Leos are definitely fun for that. But far as like some other stuff, they might not necessarily be I guess the best fit for myself, but I still respect them, still learn how to have fun, and they're good for their own right, for certain things. Next, I'm gonna go to Virgo. Now, Virgo runs from August 23rd to September 22nd. Mm, I like Virgos to be honest. Like Virgos, I'm not sure what it is, um, but I feel like have had decent conversation with Virgos in which they seem very informative about whatever they're speaking about. They seem very um, calm and they're like, I don't know, maybe this is the Capricorn and the introvert side of me where they're calm, they're knowledgeable, and they seem well informed, which for me, that is like a cherry on top where having a meaningful or an informative conversation is always pleasant. Um, they don't seem too reserved because sometimes I've have had like conversation with other people where I feel like it was too reserved for myself, and that's coming from someone that's also, I would consider myself introverted, but Virgos themselves seem very, in my opinion, well rounded, and I think in general I never had a bad experience with a Virgo. Very smart people. I'm pretty sure some might argue that Virgos probably could come off as a know-it-all, but at least in my experience, this is when like it's better to have people who have like different careers or different interests, because Virgos could be very stubborn at times as well. Like they could come off as a know-it-all if it's related to a like subject matter in which they like understand in and out, and they might be more resistant to like adopting new strategies or methods if it's something that they already, I guess, master or is very well familiar with. And it's kind of, at least in my experience, it's better to like have Virgos in their own lane, so that you don't like conflict or have differing opinions. So that's my opinion with Virgos. I think they're very cool. I think they're very chill, and I typically don't have any reservations. I think yeah, like I guess the persona of a Virgo is never off putting for me. It just seems like they just decent individuals, nothing negative. Next, I have Libra. Libra. Libras run from September 23rd to October 22nd. Libras for me. hmm, Working with a Libra is fine if you just keep it work related. I think Libras themselves are very good business people or colleagues or working partners, because they're gonna try to keep things fair. Um, usually, well, excuse me. Usually, they're very even tempered, which is a plus for me. However, I know there's different types of Libras. I'm not sure what it is, but I know there's different types. For example, I remember that word. I did have an ex that was a Libra, but they showed up more like I'll say like a fire sign, Leo or maybe an Aries, and that mixture or that different upbringing of this person, there was a lot of like heated moments. However, I have met other Libras that seem very calm, very like not too what's what I'm looking for, um, like anxious or high energy. I've met other types of Libras that seem very well rounded and very relaxed and not too obnoxious. But maybe that's just my experience. Maybe I just had a one-off experience with a Libra. I think overall they come off as a fair person, as long as you are fair to them. They're trying their best to be fair to you. So at least that's my opinion of Libras. Nothing too bad. Scorpios is next, October 23rd to November 21st. Now, Scorpios for me is interesting because I found out that I have a little bit of Scorpio inside myself, which kind of maybe at one point I'll make another video that go more in detail of like the at least share my knowledge of what I know about like the moon signs and the rising signs, like all that different I guess, things that I've learned, I've shared with you, just in case you happen to stumble upon my video before somebody else, and I can just give you the information so you don't have to jump to the next person's video. Anyway, so Scorpios, very, um, I like them because they're very grounded personalities. At least what I've come across or have came across. Very grounded. Um, they're not too extroverted. They're not too impulsive. Most of them have seemed very even temper for me, at least in my experience. Um, I have grown to understand that Scorpios tend to think very dark thoughts. And for me, at first I thought it was I didn't understand what people meant about like the steam, but from I guess dating a Scorpio and from having a little bit of Scorpio within myself, I completely understand like what people. Excuse me. I understand people's opinion about how dark or how when a Scorpio is upset, how I guess how low they can go. Um, but other than that, like when Scorpios are good or not good, but in general, I don't think Scorpios are bad. They tend to be good in bed. I think that's a common thing. I'm not sure if you guys will agree or disagree, but generally speaking, Scorpios tend to have a high, or at least, excuse me, have a reputation of being very sexual. Um, but I mean, I guess that is not necessarily a bad thing, as long as maybe if you're dating a Scorpio, that might be a little bit problematic if you guys are not like getting on with each other. I guess they have a high they could I suppose or have a risk that they might step out of a relationship. But in general, if you find yourself a loyal Scorpio and you're able to agree to just the relationship conditions. I think Scorpios themselves are very good people, and I guess they're warm uh, inside. So once you get over or through all the horror or the darkness, they have like a little bit of a warmth inside them, which is very nice to see, and they're very like I guess humble and not too impulsive, which is pretty cool too. The next sign I have is Sagittarius, which is November 22nd to December 21st. They're okay. I never had an argument. Wait, let me take that back. I have had an argument with a Sagittarius before, and it they do go for the gutter, but at the same time, maybe it's because we're like right beside each other. I feel like there are a lot of similarities between me and the Sagittarius, or Capricorn and the Sagittarius. But I don't, I don't have like an overall negative opinion about them. I just there's something for me is a little bit off with their personality. Like I haven't had I guess a best friend as a Sagittarius. Um, my my dating experience with a Sagittarius was short lived. I think that was like 2 to 3 months, and I haven't talked to that person in decades at this point. So in a decade, sorry, don't want to age myself more than what I need to. But yeah, I haven't have any real close bonds with the Sagittarius. I think they seem decent. They seem like decent people. I guess I have no reservation when it comes to them. So we'll go to the next sign, Capricorn, which is December 22nd to January 19th. For me, Capricorns seem, it's a hit and miss, to be honest. Like, and that's me saying it as a Capricorn. What I mean by that is I've have met some Capricorns that has even like, I guess, turned me away in a sense like I didn't want to like have any type of long lasting relationship with 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 that Capricorn. But I think that's like as I've been learning more and more about like zodiac signs and tarot and different like makeup of people, I think it's those factors that comes into play. Plus, like someone's upbringing. So I don't think at least the bad um, Capricorns that I've came across, like that's 100% their fault. Like some of it just inherit situations. Of course, what people say about Capricorns is generally true. Like we do tend to think about money a lot. Uh, we do tend to think a lot up here. Like we overthink. Um, I'm biased, obviously. Like I don't think overthinking is a bad thing. Um, for Capricorn, I'm assuming that we would say thinking is better than not thinking, right? If you, because I think that's what causes that clash between Capricorns and other, say, fiery signs like an Aries or a Leo, where they're very impulsive, where a Capricorn would view that as illogical or risky, and a well-rounded or a Capricorn that has, I guess, started to take ownership of themselves and I guess personal growth will start to understand like we need a little bit like a meeting in the middle or close to the middle where yes, I 100% that impulsivity kind of makes me like freeze, but at the same time, I completely agree where like some signs might think like a Capricorn overthinks something, and sometimes a person can get froze by overthinking something and never taking action. So I do think Capricorns themselves, when I think of them, I have to at least acknowledge because I'm a Capricorn of what are some of the truths that people hold on to, but also Capricorns with 100% of the doubt, we allow people to see what we want them to see. Like there's in my mind, there's different friends for different situations, and sometimes there's certain friends that I have in certain friend group who might not be completely aware of, I guess, another set of friends because they are completely interested in another hobby or another topic that we just so happen to click with. But not to say Capricorns typically have the small circles we do, but it's not fully the whole case. Most Capricorns fit groups. I mean, fit people in groups where they might not be like our, I guess, our close friends, but there's different friends or different associates that we assign to different friend groups. But then, far as our core friends who understand like us in and out, those are a very limited number of people. And it's not that because Capricorns just don't, but it is we don't like people. We try our best, but it takes a lot of patience, and I think it's more so not that we're not. I'm not being defensive, but not that we are not patient because we're typically are slow movers. people are less patient with us because we're analyzing the situation. And this is something that throughout time and patience, you will start to see us become more transparent of who we are. And I just think a lot of people don't waste time or have the time to be patient with us. So typically, that's why we get like I guess the general bad rep of like being standoffish, being cold. But at the same time, as a Capricorn, I'm not sure if you other Capricorns will agree, but I actually enjoy that because as a Capricorn, I rather people themselves self-eliminate themselves instead of me having to be the bad one. Because typically Capricorns themselves, reason why we also are very introverted or do a lot of thinking because we also are aware, and unfortunately because of myself I have a little bit of Scorpio inside me where my mindset is generally thinking very pointed or nonchalant or very dark, and then sometimes it's a lot more easier or it's a lot more work, and I'm working on this right now actually. It's a lot more work to rewrite my sentences before I say it because I have to rewrite it to so it doesn't offend the person who I'm trying to convey the message to. So that's something that I've been working on where I'm trying to, I guess, filter my own thoughts and own communications. But that's not a pleasant state of a Capricorn. A Capricorn themselves at the core would just be able to divulge thoughts freely and hope that the people in that close inner circle accept it, accept it or understand them, and or don't take offense. So that's why a lot of Capricorns are viewed as standoffish or cold or whatnot, and people just don't understand it, or they don't really have the patience to want to get to understand it. But that's just my opinion. I'm gonna go on to Aquarius. Aquarius. I generally, oh sorry, Aquarius it runs from the range January 20th to February 18th. Now, my opinion of Aquarius is that they are good when they're good, bad when they're bad. Meaning that uh, I have had a good long-term relationships experience with Aquarius where we had some of the best time. We, excuse me, we've been able to achieve great things together or plan like trips with other people that included some people that was Aquarius. Very, very nice people. But and they're usually well tempered, but that's like it's not as bad as some other signs, but at least from my experience, Aquarius tend to be very nice and calm when things are going right, but when things are going wrong, or say if there's a conflict, their emotions can sometimes overwhelm them, and they might take certain actions that they didn't fully think of at the time. But I, they are like an old nonsense type of people person it seems, and I think one similar trait that I've noticed is that when it comes to Aquarius, they tend to be like to themselves. They are sociable, but they also like are selective of who they hang out with. They don't typically, they're not very outgoing or flashy like some of the fire signs, but at the same time, they are very sociable people, and they usually make a lot of common sense, like far as the communication wise, and they're very nice signs to be around. But when when they become upset, it could be an interesting moment to say the least. So that's my opinion of Aquarius. And lastly but not least, we're at Pisces, which is February 19th to March 20th. Pisces are emotional. I mean, I'm trying to find something else to. Okay, Pisces live in romance, at least in my experience. Like they, for some reason, they tend to romance or find a ways to romance a situation. Always. Or maybe it's just the Pisces that I've come across. It's like maybe it's just something that comes natural to them. Like they can feel, like they can feel emotion that, like, as far as like if I'm having a conversation with a Pisces that really like upset me, they have the ability to feel it, to understand like where I'm coming from, which is a great trait. But some Pisces care. I'm not feeling like I don't want to say overfill because it's not feeling is not a bad thing. But some Pisces, it seems like Pisces lead by feeling, and sometimes they can somewhat drown themselves in other people's situations, and then sometimes, at least in my experience, and I'm not to say I know this might not sound good for myself, but as someone that's kind of like, I guess, naturally cold and dark, as a Capricorn, Pisces, I can take in dosage. Like, I'm good talking like for a session or two about like relationship problems, but then for me, I got to be able to like we got to be able to talk about other stuff, not about how your partner made you feel and how someone that you're interested is making you feel. That's good, all and dandy, but for me, I think some Pisces overdo it, and they just sometimes it seems like they carry on too long about like. But just in meeting, like my initial thought in meeting the Pisces, I don't have any reservations. It's just it's not my I won't say cup of tea because I do think sometimes as people or certain different makeups of different certain makeups, we need other personalities to like pull out certain traits within ourselves. So I do appreciate Pisces who can bring me down to a conversation about emotions or feelings and all that fun stuff. But for me, it's only like a short amount of time I could talk about emotions and relationship problems without feeling like, okay, let's talk about something that makes us happy, or let's talk about something like a goal that we're working on or interested in. And sometimes that's hard to stay in that direction with a Pisces because somehow it just always go back to relationship matters, which is kind of weird, but that's at least my experience when it comes to Pisces. But anyway, I feel like I carried on long enough. I hope this video helped you guys understand somewhat of at least my opinion on why I utilize or have an interest in Zodiac. I just want to say this is not everything. I know there are other factors that go into it that maybe one day I'll make another follow-up video. I do have a favor to ask. If you have any comments on my opinion about these zodiacs, please share them. I'm interested to know whether or not you guys completely disagree or if you think I was spot on.